You're listening to The Business Focused Photographer. If you're ready to transform your photography business into a thriving career, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll discuss fun and innovative ways to boost your creativity and income. Sound good? Let's go.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. While we are recording at the end of October, this episode will launch us into this series for December of how I built this. And I've been able to convince some of our industry's leading people, educators, photographers, to really kind of pull back the curtain and talk about how they built this thing. Because I think if there is anything that we can do for the burgeoning photographers who might be listening, it's to really show like what goes into building a truly successful business. And today I have Maddie Peschong, and I'm so excited. I don't have to really introduce her, but she is a branding photographer based in South Dakota. She is the lead of Rebrand and her coaching program, education platform, and host of the Take It Personally podcast. So thank you for coming on, Maddie, and helping us.
Thank you so much for, I'm going to interrupt you. Seriously, Maddie, get it together. Get it together, Maddie. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, you can't not interrupt me if I don't shut the fuck up. So it's your only option, the only way you're going to get a word in edgewise. Welcome though. I was so excited when you responded and you agreed to have this conversation with me because we were just talking before I finally hit record, is like, whenever you learn about how super successful, and I'm calling you super successful people built the thing that they built, there's always these common threads regardless of their industry or their notoriety. And I love that you immediately acknowledged to me that it's like being a little delusional and just not stopping. And it's unfortunately the secret to an overnight success, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. The secret to overnight success is delusion and time. I'm convinced. Like, I have had some really cool conversations lately with people who are just kind of getting started with launching like group programs and like really looking at scaling their business. And they're asking me about my experience, which even just that is a moment to be like, you're coming to me for advice on, like, to me, my program is still such like a baby program, but it has grown, and we now have over 100 people in the program, and I've got co-coaches, and it is this really cool thing. And when I look at the success that I have had with this program, and certainly where I want to continue taking it, I'm convinced that the reason that it's where it's at today is because I just do the exact same thing every 4 months. Like I do. I might tweak a couple of things, but truly, like, it's the same thing every 4 months, and just kind of learning from like what didn't go well last time, what's not resonating, what do these people need, what are they struggling with, and knowing those struggles and goals so intimately, and just doing it again and doing it again and doing it again. And don't get me wrong, like, I think it's very easy to get distracted. And I've had moments of being like, okay, nope, like, we're trying to reinvent the wheel and we need to just do the same thing again, you know? But when you look at like these really, successful people specifically in like the education industry, I think that's often what it is like they're just doing it over and over again until it starts to work, until it starts to click.
As somebody who does have an education platform that truly is in its infancy, that's reassuring to hear, because I know that's been the secret for my photography business, is to just like try to put your blinders on, ignore all the new and exciting things and ideas that you have, and just keep doing the same monotonous things over and over. And of course, we reiterate here and there, and
of course,
but it is a whole lot of delusion and consistency. So take us back. Been talking a lot about quantum physics and how they're recognizing that time is an illusion and time travel and everything like that. But let's time travel a little bit into when you were starting your actual photography business and what that looked like, and let's focus on the things that you think actually worked. And if you want to talk about the things that were a waste of your time, that would be helpful too for anybody listening.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got a camera in my hands in college. I took one photography class and I spent the majority of the semester like not really enjoying it. I was irritated that I wasn't really good at it immediately. It felt
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I had like, there's so much to memorize right away with like aperture and shutter speed and ISO. And I was just like, there is never going to come a day that I am able to like make all of these changes and take a photo and like work on the fly like that. So I was just kind of frustrated. But by the time we got to the end of the semester, I think I was just curious enough to be like, okay, this might be worth some of my time. And so I went home over Christmas break. I can't remember if I bought I think I asked for a camera for Christmas. And so I at some point over Christmas I received like a Nikon D3000 was what I started on,
Yeah.
with a kit lens, and I
Is this
just
like,
like
sorry, like 2009, 2010?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right
Samesies.
around there. Mhm.
Samesies. Yep.
Yep. And I literally just are we swearing on this podcast? Is this something that
Please,
you do?
please, so that I'm not the only one.
Great,
I
great.
already dropped the mother of curses, so go for it.
No, I literally just went home over Christmas break and like fucked around. I spent a lot of time on did you ever follow the Pioneer Woman? She's like
Yeah.
this
She's got a
huge
line at
brand.
Walmart now. Yeah.
Yes, like now she's this huge brand, but at the
Yeah,
time
sure.
she was pretty much a blogger, and she had this series on her blog called What the Heck is Aperture, and it taught like here's what aperture is, here's shutter speed, here's ISO, and I just like I consumed those blog posts. I read them over and over and over again to try and like get it into my brain and my body. I told people that I would like photograph their families for free in back alleys of my hometown. Like I just fucked around. That's all I was doing.
And you found
And
out. Okay.
I
So
found out. I found out. And I was doing all of my editing in Photoshop, like ACR, which now I haven't touched in years. It was like so much more cumbersome than what I should have been doing. And I was doing spot color and like it was a mess, but I
yeah.
was figuring it out. I was just messing around. And so that went on for probably a couple of years, honestly. By the time I finished college, I had been shooting like, I would say portfolio building sessions, like $50, $100 sessions. And part of my senior project was to put together a website. And so that's when Mad Photo and Design at the time was created. And I knew that I wasn't going to like graduate college and go directly to photography. I think I knew enough to know that like the skills weren't there. And also, I was very concerned about being able to find a job and make money. And like that was very concerning to me. And so I wanted to find like a steady corporate job. And I did. I got a really great job at Blue Bunny Ice Cream, actually. My school was in Sioux City, Iowa. So Lamar's was nearby. That's where Blue Bunny Ice Cream is made. And I got a really great job doing marketing and social media and some PR for Blue Bunny. And then on the side was just like growing this photography business and kind of kept it hidden, although there were moments that people would find out. And so then I ended up doing a couple like coworkers kids senior photos or family photos and that type of thing. And it just kind of grew from there. I ended up leaving that job and moving back to South Dakota, a little bit closer to home with my husband. And it was during that move that I started to consider a little bit more like, should I just do photography full time? Because I was having a harder time finding a job. But there was still a lot of hesitancy of like, I don't know if I can make this work. I tell this story a lot, but both my mom and my husband were like, there's way too many photographers in this market. You cannot do this. This is a terrible idea. And now they're like, hang their heads that they said that.
Yeah.
But honestly, I totally understand why they said that. Like they were not wrong. They were not
Right.
wrong at all.
Really?
And
In Sioux Falls, you said?
in Sioux Falls is where I live. Yep. And there's a ton of photographers here. And I know a lot of people can relate to that. Photography has really low barrier to entry. So
Yep.
there's a lot of us, and you have to figure out ways to stand out. And so that's kind of what I started doing without realizing that I was doing it. I got a day job that I really liked, also in marketing. And it was at an agency this time. So a little bit like hipper, and I was like average age, whereas when I was at corporate I was the youngest one there by quite a bit. And
Yeah.
so I loved where I worked and I loved my coworkers, and I was kind of building this brand on the side. And that I was there for 3 years. And during that time, I also had my first two kids. Just kind of got to the point where I was like, something has to give. Like, I feel like I'm kind of being a shitty employee. I'm being a shitty business owner. I'm being a shitty wife and mom because I'm just stretched so thin. But I felt so scared to leave what I really viewed as like the safety net of my job, even though, get this, this is crazy. I was making like a reasonable agency salary. So I wasn't making like a bunch of money. But by the time I did end up quitting, I think I was making like 2.5 times my agency salary in my photography business.
Really?
Yeah. And I was still scared shitless. And I think it just goes to show you that, like, I had this like savings account. I was making good money. I had weddings booked out for the next year because at the time I was doing weddings. And I was still like, what if it doesn't work? Like, sometimes you just need someone to push you off a cliff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I am. I have said it before. Like, I am the person who I need to build the parachute after I fall. Otherwise, I'm not going to build it. But what's your zodiac sign? Just out of curiosity.
I'm a Taurus.
Okay, I got one of
Yeah.
those. My daughter's when's your birthday?
April 21st. So I'm
So
kind of a cusp.
you are cusp, yeah, but she's the
Hmm.
28th, and that is like, yeah, just like stability, seeking stability
Yeah.
and security. Yes, and that, sure, why not? I mean, because what is it about our job that even though with a couple of really successful years under our belt, it still feels like we're waiting for the other shoe to drop?
Yeah.
I've been
Totally.
waiting for 15 years. It's like,
Yep.
when is my business gonna fail? Because
Uh
it's
huh.
not promised. There's no tenure, there's no contract, there's no union, right? So
Right.
it's fair. It's fair, but is like, just out of curiosity, does your husband have a conventional job with a conventional contract and paycheck and all that? Yeah.
For the most part, yes. He has a very, it's post COVID, it's very flexible. He works from home. He has a lot of autonomy. He's got a great boss. And so, but yeah, I mean, like, he's a W-2 employee. Like, he's got
Right.
a very
Right.
normal, yep. I think something that I really wasn't able to grasp until much later, the reason that I left my job at Blue Bunny was because there were a lot of layoffs happening and a lot of my friends lost their jobs. And so my husband and I had a house in a town where we did not grow up. And it looked like this company was not doing well, which thank God that was the company is still here today. Like, so everything is fine. But it's a corporation and like they were going through a kind of more turbulent time. And that's why we decided to move. But looking back, I'm like, there was like a 2 or 3 month period and I think it was a total of 3 different times where I walked into work and I got an email that said, at some point today, you're going to be asked to step aside with HR and go into a room and like they're going to tell you if you still have a job or not. That happened 3 times in 3 months
My
when I was at Blue
God.
Bunny right before I left. The trauma of that, right? And so I think that I took some of that trauma of like, oh my God, like I hope I still have a job. And thank God I did. But also now that I'm able to look back on that, it's like nothing is certain. Well, you could
No.
walk into your job tomorrow and be fired. And so
Right.
I would so much rather be in this position where I know how to make money for myself. There are sometimes it's easier than others, right?
Right. Right.
But I know how to do this and I have built that trust with myself. And so when I have like students who are working through this and they're like, I'm so nervous to quit my job or I'm nervous because like my job is that sure thing. It's that sure paycheck. I always remind them like, that's not necessarily true. And I'm not team quit your job. Like I am team do whatever is best for you. But a job is not a sure thing, you know?
You're
And
so
so I
right.
think that has helped me be like, now I feel like I'm in more of a position of like power in my life and in my career than I was then. I just didn't realize it.
Thank you for saying that. I never thought of it that way, but you're right. Even somebody, I was a teacher before this, and similar thing. There was a lot of uncertainty with my job, and I just saw it as an opportunity to pivot and do the thing that I had kind of been wanting to try out. But even then, if a budget doesn't pass,
Yeah.
schools have budgets. Like even with what seems like the most secure jobs, it's not as probably as secure as like being able to. It might be hamster wheelish sometimes, but work really hard and put a little bit of extra elbow grease in to generate some more income for yourself when you need to.
Definitely. Yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too. And my husband has said it before too, which is so funny seeing him do just like a 180 from where we started after, because he's seen the trajectory of my business, right?
Sure.
Like we've built that trust together too. But now, like the way that he talks about my business, he's like, it's so awesome that like if you want to make more money next month, you can just go make more money next month. Like
Yeah.
he can't do that in his
No.
job. Like
Nope.
he's gonna make what he's gonna make. And so there really are like so many cool there's so many cool pieces of entrepreneurship, but I think that that's something that gets overlooked because we're just sold this like it's a fact that corporate jobs are secure, but like no, it's not.
No, they're not,
Especially not
especially
right
now.
now, you know? Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and it's my husband has actually had the opposite perspective, thankfully, because I have at and it's always because of like the things that I do as a business owner that make it hard. It's not a stressful career path by any means, but when I'm like, here I didn't pay enough of my taxes and here comes another $15,000 tax bill.
Totally.
And I'm just like,
Totally.
fuck it, man. I'm just going to go back to teaching. I'm going to come and work. And he was like, what are you doing? He was like, you have you make your own schedule. You can make as much money as you want. Let me carry the benefits. Let me carry the all this other like reliable stuff and predictable stuff, and you be the one who's like printing the money when we because man, I out earn him, and he's a teacher of 15 years at this point, and I've been doing this for less than that, and it's
Mhm.
like and I can out earn him by a large margin too,
Yeah.
and be have no stress. Nobody's telling me when to show up and when to go home. There's no contracts. I write the contracts. So
Right.
it is like it's people don't realize, and this was your husband before he knew. It's like they don't realize that this is like an actual job, like a career job, a profitable, a lucrative job. And
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
I'm here in my studio that I rent. I don't own my studio, but I know my landlord has been like sympathetic, assuming that I don't make a lot of money. And I kind of like to keep him thinking that. Like he doesn't
That's
have to
hilarious.
know that I like
No,
earn
he doesn't.
much more than 6 figures at this point.
It's
But
none of his
yeah, he can
business.
keep my rent low because everybody's always like, "Oh, is this something you do kind of as like a hobby? This is like your a little fun thing that you do on the side. What do you really do for work?" And like, all right,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
fine for you to think that. But sorry, uh, so you were figuring this out. You were shooting weddings, but obviously you are the queen of brand photography now. Like I think it's official. I think you have a crown somewhere that must say that. So how did you make that transition? Because you go hard in that niche, and it's obviously working for you. So talk a little bit about what that looked like on your end.
Yeah, totally. It was a very slow burn, which is funny because you're right. Like now I go so hard for it. I'm like, I was joking with a friend the other day. I'm like, I need to do a better job of telling people that like brand photography is also a great supplemental niche. Like it doesn't have to be all that you do because I spend so much time being like, everyone should be a brand photographer, quit everything else. It's the best niche that there is, which like I
Yeah.
need to calm down.
Yeah, but
But
I can see why how you would win that
I
argument
love it.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it totally changed my life, but it was a slow burn. So when I quit my job, I was a wedding photographer, and I'm very appreciative to weddings because they were really what allowed me to do that. They were what allowed me to book out my calendar like a year in advance, build a savings account, get comfortable with charging higher prices, like all those things. And I always enjoyed shooting weddings. I think like kind of a theme of my life up until I found brand photography and now coaching was that everything was fine. Like nothing was broken, nothing was on fire. I liked shooting families, and then I liked shooting seniors, and then I liked doing weddings, and like it was fine. But I had friends who would be like, "Oh my god, if I could spend every Saturday shooting a wedding, like and I was just like, that is not my journey. Like I don't
Actually,
understand
Dante's
that."
Inferno, like that's
Yeah.
like
I
absolute
just didn't
hell.
get it. And so I think, I mean, that just made me feel like there's something that I'm missing. Like I haven't found my thing quite yet. And at the time I was really frustrated with that because I saw so many of my friends like they were newborn photographers or family photographers or wedding photographers, and I didn't really feel like I fit in. However, I did like shooting weddings, and I always really loved the wedding day. I loved when you're shooting a wedding, like, you're such a part of a team. Like, you've got the planner and you've got the venue coordinator and you've got the florist, and I just like loved that dynamic. And I also really loved sending preview galleries to my couple, but also to all of the other vendors. I loved being like, here's a gorgeous photo of your venue that you can use on Instagram, or a great photo of you like being a planner with the bride and groom. I loved doing that. And that was like almost more exciting to me than sending the photos to the bride and groom, because I was like, oh, the business can use this and they can use this in their marketing. And like, that's so exciting to me. And around the same time that I started doing that, I started to also bring more of myself into my business. I was very aware early on that there were a lot of photographers in my town and they were incredibly talented. And if I was going to compete on just talent, like, sorry, try again. Like, there was just so much talent. And so if I was just going to be like, here's a pretty photo, it wasn't going to work. And so I was like, well, I will just like bring in some personality and see what happens. And so I posted more photos of myself, like what is now known as brand photography, but this was a while ago. And so we didn't really have that terminology for
They
it.
were headshots. They were headshots.
They were
right?
headshots.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I started posting more of that type of stuff and just sharing more of my personal life. At the time, I was sharing my kids because they were babies. I don't do that anymore. But I did at the time. I shared family stuff. I shared even just like silly anecdotes and quippy things. And people really enjoyed it. And then I also always wanted to make sure that when I was working with anybody, but specifically with couples, that I just made them feel like a star whenever it came time to like highlight their wedding day. And I felt like I knew what I was doing with that because I had that marketing background. So I felt pretty confident about that. But anyway, all of that to say, I quit my job. Weddings were what allowed me to do that, but I knew that it wasn't going to be the end all be all. And I actually ended up joining this Facebook group. I forget what the name of it was, but it was essentially a trade group of photographers and very small businesses, product-based businesses. And product-based business would send you product in exchange for a couple of photos.
That's
and then
cool.
you could negotiate if you like wanted to, sell them more photos or whatever. Super cool concept, like such
Very
a
cool.
neat thing.
Yeah.
And inside this group, I got connected with a woman named Meredith, who was just starting a company called Little Sleepies. She was based in LA. I was based in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We had both just quit our jobs. And she was like, I'm going to send you 3 baby jammies with like our footed pajamas. And I want a couple of photos in exchange. And I was like, great. And I went into this thinking, I want to just like do this so well, because this is the exact type of project that I want more of. And so I I hired a bunch of my friends who had babies like about the same age as my kids. I rented a studio. I picked up coffee in the morning, so like all the moms would have coffee when I was working with their kids. And I shot this session and I sent it to Meredith, and she was like, this is exactly what we were looking for. We have just like, I don't know if they had lost their photographer or if they were working like contract to contract, but they're like, we're looking for a photographer. Would you be interested in working with us on a more ongoing basis? Which at the time was like every couple months. So not super frequently, but enough where I was like, hell yeah, like this rocks. I would absolutely love that. So that was really like kind of my big break. That's what taught me about brand photography and that like what it could look like. And my relationship with that brand was so great, and they grew exponentially. Like they had a couple of celebrities that would like post the product, and so they went viral a couple times and like totally sold out of the product. It was just a really wild ride. So by the time I ended up walking away from working with them, which I'll talk more about, they were needing shoots like every other week. They had gotten a licensing deal with Disney. Like it had gotten to be so big.
Wow.
And they are absolutely lovely. Meredith is such a cool chick, but I realized that I didn't want to work with kids. And working with Little Sleepies, I was working with kids every other week. And I was like, I don't have time for like these really cool women-owned businesses, which Little Sleepies was, but that's not what I was shooting. That I don't have time for like these like kind of CEO type sessions that I really want to do. And so I ended up breaking up with them amicably. She was so sweet about it. Like it was very, very amicable, and like wished them nothing but the best. And they are absolutely killing it. But that was when I pivoted more into like personal brands and working more with women. And that was when I was like, this is it. This is like the thing that I was missing.
Wow. It's always so interesting to hear about these little relationships, and it's always relationships, isn't it? That help us like bridge the gap to before we can level up. Um, uh, what like if you can think back, was it purely the networking, or were you doing other marketing that enabled you to pivot completely from weddings into branding?
That's a really good question. I think it was like this is a bit of a meta answer, and it also encompasses a lot of things, but I think it was the brand that I had built. And at the time, I don't think I would have been able to articulate that, but looking back, like that's what it was. It was my client experience. It was my marketing. It was knowing my ideal client really well. It was being very aware of like my positioning, like what my website looked like and how you interacted with it when you like needed to go somewhere, and like all of those little touch points that you think of when you think of a brand. I have treated my business like a brand, even though it is a personal brand. But because of my background in marketing and working with these larger brands, I've really treated my business like a brand for a long time. And I think that that was what allowed me to kind of like set myself apart. And by the time I made it official that I was doing brand photography, I think it made a lot of sense because I had been talking about social media and I had been talking about marketing and like just kind of running my mouth on Instagram. So then when I said, okay, now I'm going to do this for you too, people were like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And you are living proof of a belief that I've always held, is that if a photographer wants to get any sort of formal training for this industry, it should not be in the photography. It should be in marketing specifically, but
100% agree.
anything on the business, and you will figure out the photography enough to be good enough to,
Yep.
but it is that marketing, that ability to market and sell, that is going to propel you and sustain you and sustain you. I think the artist brain gets more fatigued by the sorry. I think the artist type and that artist brain gets more fatigued by working on assignments for other people's visions. Where the business brain is just like problem solving, and this is like what we're good at. This is like, yeah, I can do this. This is what we need to do. How do we reverse engineer and then figure that how to make that work? So, yeah, just another vote for, if you're going to get any sort of pay for your education, pay for marketing education, pay for business education. That
I
is where,
totally agree.
yeah, it's going to get you that ROI more so than that aperture and all that bullshit. That you'll figure
Definitely.
that out. You'll figure that out
Yeah,
in a day.
exactly.
Whatever.
Exactly.
Oh man, this is so cool, and man, you're so inspiring. What other connections do you feel like you made, or what made you really fine tune what branding photography was going to look like for you? Because it apparently was not going to be the product, and that wasn't as exciting for you. It was the personal brand. Talk about that.
Yeah, I think like so many things, it was the experience of like the experience that I was having. And again, like I don't think I would have been able to like pick this apart at the time, but after I had been um like kind of pursuing more of that, like working with female founders and doing personal brand photography, I started also working through, what do you call it? Like my kind of, I guess, my like intellectual property. Like how do I plan a shoot, and like how have I like built my brand? Because at the time I was starting to look at like doing more education. And the thing that kept, well, even back farther than that, anytime that I talked about confidence in my content, confidence or like imposter syndrome, that resonated really deeply. Like I always had people who like that really resonated with them. And so it was probably years later when I was, working kind of on this like intellectual property, like part of my business. And I realized like, I think so much of why I'm drawn specifically to personal brand photography. I mean, I'm sure that there are dozens, but I think it's because embracing my personal brand changed my life. Like, it changed my life and it changed my business. And I am convinced that it has the ability to change other people's too. I think, that like age old quote that's so lame, but like people buy from people. Like, people don't buy products. They don't, like, they buy transformation and they buy from people.
Yeah.
And so many times business owners want to hide behind the service or the product because it's safer. I think especially women, we are historically told to just like stay small and not speak up and not put ourselves out there, or that like we don't belong in the room. Even if we are not told that with words, if you look around at the people who are in boardrooms and CEOs and speaking on stages, historically it's been men. And so when you have a woman who has a business, like, how can you not start to what's the word that I want to use? How can you not internalize that? How does that of course that's going to show up in how you run your business and how you like show up for yourself. And I realized that I'm convinced the only way to have success as a personal brand photographer is to show people that it's safe to build a personal brand. It is safe to be the face of your business. And you can't just say that. You really have to go first. You really have to walk the walk. If you're not doing that, there is going to be a disconnect between what your clients are seeing and like experiencing and what you're saying. And I want women to feel, and men too, but mostly women. I want them to feel confident in their business, because I think women are just such fantastic business owners. We see a problem and we want to create a solution for it, right? We're very like solution focused, but we're also focused on the experience, and we have so much empathy, and we care about like the why, the feeling, like the ooey gooey stuff that I think oftentimes gets missed in business. And so I've worked with the coolest women who run these incredible businesses for things that like I would never have thought of, that they were like, they saw a need and they filled it, but then they're not marketing it because they're scared, because they have imposter syndrome, because no one else has done this before. And so who am I to XYZ, right? And it just breaks my heart because they become these like best kept secrets, and it's like that doesn't do anybody any good. And so that's really like where my passion comes from, is like, it doesn't do anyone any good if you're the best kept secret. And I think historically we've been told like that personal branding or like influencer marketing is seen as like conceited or self-absorbed, or it's literally just marketing. It's marketing, and men have been doing it for millions of years. Like, it's fine.
Actual millions of years. Yeah. You just dropped so many golden nuggets. One, I think that participating in whatever you're selling is important across all industries. This is something I tell the family photographers that I coach, is if you are not already actively paying for, and I think it's important to pay for, family photography every year, so that you can be in your client's shoes. You can really understand and live their pain points, and also identify what's working and what's not on the other end. That's you're probably going to stagnate, and you're probably going to become so disconnected. And yeah, that women, why do we? Because this is a problem also with the photographers that I coach, is the challenges when it comes to asking for the thing, or being assertive about it, because we're so afraid of coming off as pushy or braggadocious or anything like that, when it's okay to talk about what you're good at. Why is this right? Why does it have to be a secret? It shouldn't be a secret. It is a disservice when you keep it a secret, and you try to play small, so that, because I think we're always worried about making other people feel bad, like stupid shit like
Totally.
that. Yeah.
Totally. And I think too, like, I think selling is also something that's really triggering for a lot of people. And I understand that. I'm definitely a better marketer than I am like a salesperson. But what
Mhm.
I think people forget is like the better marketer you are, the easier selling is. So,
That's
like, the
all.
better that you become at marketing something, the less that you have to sell it because, like, it kind of, I mean, it doesn't sell itself. That's not a thing, but like, it kind of sells itself, you know?
Right. It's if your storytelling is like the storytelling part of your marketing is strong, people are going to want the permission to be a part of your story. And then that's what selling becomes. It becomes granting this lead permission to join your story. And that
Right.
also sounds conceited, but it's like what sets us apart from the next photographer over, we always think it's price and it rarely is price, and we always think it's talent and
Rarely.
it rarely is talent. It's what
Hmm.
is the story that you're telling, what is this experience that is inviting people in or not inviting people in, and then are you effectively figuring out how to give people this permission. Selling isn't saying, hey, do you want to buy this thing, please buy this thing, take take this thing and give me your money. That's not selling. Selling is like, it's an invitation, right? You've done the marketing. If your marketing is sufficient, then the sale doesn't need to be this big pushy a gross thing. It's just an easy conversation.
That's spot on. I had a business coach for years and years who was really good at selling. And she would always say selling is a service. And I truly believe that now. Like, I look at the things that I'm selling in my business and I'm like, the reason that I'm selling these is because I am confident that it will make your life easier. I'm confident that if you book a brand session, I can make your life easier. I'm confident if you join Rebrand, I can make your life easier. And so I get excited to sell and I certainly get excited to market because marketing is just talking about the thing. I'm like,
Right.
let me tell you about this amazing thing that I have. Like, it's the best.
Yes. I have an episode that's going to actually air before yours. That's called Selling is a Service. And that's it's
Yes.
exact because that's exactly what it is. And I wonder if you guys have the same coach. But I'm so glad that you mentioned your coach because I wanted to ask you, and I might have forgotten to ask it before you became a coach yourself. Now you answered my question. Did you invest in coaching?
I
And to what
did.
level?
Yeah, I never intended to get into coaching. I credit all of that to my coach, my longtime coach. Her name is Jasmine. And I came into her mastermind really like pretty blind. I just really trusted her. And I was like, you've got good vibes. Like, I think this is maybe the next thing I'm going to do. And I remember I've told this story before, and she's like, "That's so funny. I don't remember that." But right before I joined, she said, "This is going to be so fun. We've never had a photographer before." She was not a coach for photographers. It was not a photography program, and it just like got my wheels turning. I was like, "You've never had a photographer, but what are you going to do with a photographer? Like, I just take photos." So it was not on my radar at all to get into coaching. And I started working with her in like 2018, and the first couple of years I was just really focused on like I had pretty recently launched the brand photography side of my business, so I was focused on like scaling that, not even scaling it, getting it established. Getting it
Yeah.
established and like starting to niche down and not doing weddings anymore. And she encouraged me to do I think the first thing that I did was like an Instagram workshop, like how to use Instagram for your business. And so I had these people come who were not just photographers. And it was at that workshop that I had people ask me about the coaching that I had invested in because they're like, we've noticed such a change in your business. Like, what are you doing? And so I told them, like, I'm in this mastermind, and they're like, would you host a mastermind? Like, we would be in your mastermind. That would be awesome. And
Wow.
so I kicked off my mastermind. Yeah. I mean, like, how cool, like, what a generous thing for them to say, too.
For
Cause, like,
real.
it truly was not on my radar. And so for them to be like, you should do that, we would do that. It was so cool and really changed everything. And so after they said that, and then with Jasmine's help, I launched my mastermind in 2020. The world shut down. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I have to help all these business owners like navigate a pandemic. It was a whole thing. But found out that like shockingly, I loved it. Like I loved coaching. I had a lot of stuff to work through because I think like a lot of, I don't love the term imposter syndrome, but that's probably what it was. Like the who am I to kind of do this. But long story short, it was like the best thing ever. And now I would say that that program has taken a lot of different kind of twists and turns over the years. Now it's a group coaching program just for photographers, brand photographers. But like it's my favorite thing that I do. And I'm like, I'm so glad that I like tried it and had a coach really push me to like had a coach who really saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, because I don't know if I would have done it. Certainly it would have taken me a lot longer.
That's incredible. Yeah. And it's a 10,000 foot view sort of thing, but it seems like you are an obvious choice for a business coach for other photographers. You have this strong marketing background. You built a wildly successful business. And you're so, your interpersonal skills are stellar. So it's like, it seems obvious, but yeah, like you have to kind of go through it before you can really get the better optics on it as like,
Totally.
of course, that was a good move for me. That's so cool. But I love this journey. And I think that, that part about humbling yourself, and you said something really early on in our conversation that resonated with me, where it's like how much you hated the photography, classes because you weren't good at it right away. And I'm the same sort of way.
Yeah.
It's probably why I just do this and nothing else, because I am not good at being bad at things.
You're like, we're good here. No, I get it deeply.
Yeah. I am like, yeah, no, I need that. In fact, I've been actively pursuing things that I'm bad at as like a pastime, like pottery, so that I can have a little bit more humility and like,
Yes.
and remember what it sounds so conceited. I am not that great at anything, but I also need to be reminded of what it's like to actually be genuinely bad at something. Because I've created this, I've designed a career where I don't have to do things. I just skip over the things I'm really bad at. And then I get myself, speaking of that $15,000
Totally.
over year after year, but, with no learning from my mistakes. But anyway, I love that you said that. I think that if you are like me, it sounds like you have a little bit more sensibility than I did. It didn't take you too long to recognize that like there are other people in this industry or in just the business realm that could give you their shoulders to stand on, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel and you don't have to figure it all out the hard way. When you said 2018, so how far along were you in business before you invested in? I mean, a mastermind is normally not a cheap way
Yeah, it
of
was.
getting.
I think it was a couple $1,000s, and I had so when I worked a corporate job and when I was at my agency job, it like continuing education was a like budget line item, right? Not that I was in the budget meetings, but like that was something that they invested in every year. So
Yeah,
like I would go
sure.
to conferences or whatever. And so when I quit and started doing my own thing, I was like, well, that make like if I'm going to be like a big kid business owner, it makes sense that I would do some sort of continuing education, right? Because like I
Right.
did when I worked there. So to me, that just like made sense. And I think I set aside like $1,000 or something like that, and thought I would go to a photography conference or something, and then came across Jasmine because we had interacted in like kind of a previous life, like knew her from like other scenarios, and then she had started business coaching. And I really, at the end of the day, I just trusted her. And I was like, I think that I don't really know what you're doing, but like, I think it sounds kind of dope and I want to be a part of it. And so I think it was like $3,000 or something, or 2,500. It wasn't small, certainly at the time. And yeah, so I had been, let's see, that was about 2018. And I probably started my business in like 2012, but I side hustled until 2018. So that was like the first year that I was full time.
Yeah, it is, because like you already acknowledged, the financial barrier to entry into this career is so low. It's like anybody can really do it if you got
Get a camera. Yeah.
$500 to pony up. But I think that as the foundation makes it harder for photographers to invest the appropriate amount of money in education and continuing education. I was on my school's board of ed, and the amount of money that they would spend to send me to conferences for this unpaid position was so much. So of course, if you are if this is your job, you should be paying for that. The conferences, whatever, but it's a mastermind is also what kind of leveled me up too. And I think
Mhm.
that's so far. So, but before man, we have already talked for so long, but so I want to talk about a little bit how you built your education sector of your business,
Yeah.
and then what that looks like, just for anybody who's now is like, oh, this is the branding queen. I need to talk to her, because this it is a super alluring, by the way, super, super alluring niche in our industry. Like, what better schedule could you possibly have? And clients and B2B business is always so much easier. The transaction part is so much easier than B2C. So anyway, let's
100%.
right. Yeah. So I definitely want to hear about how you built this, the education
Yeah.
piece.
So I have a group program called Rebrand, and Rebrand started from the mastermind that I created in 2020. I ran that for um three. I think I ran that for like 2.5, 3 years,
Wow.
and it started out fine. The theme of my life. It was fine. Like nothing was broken. I was making really good money from it. I will say 2020 was like the heyday of online education. Like I was charging $6,000 to be in a room with me. Like I look back and I'm like, oh my God. Like, I don't know if I'm glad that it's not like that anymore. I have so many more like credentials and curriculum, and like there's anyway, that's a different rabbit hole, but it was just like it was like the golden age of online
It
learning
was a
because we
very
were
good
stuck at
year.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
were stuck at home, and so people were investing in online education, and I decided that was going to be my first year. And so these people who had kind of followed along for years and years, it just kind of like it was like steam being released from a pot. You know what I mean? Like it just was like, yeah. So it was a good year. I did that for a while, and I was specifically speaking to creatives. So not just photographers, but creatives like interior designers. I had like a realtor. Um, and I found that certainly it was a lot of photographers, but not necessarily the majority. But as time went on, I was getting the best results with my photography clients and getting really good results with photographers who wanted to niche into brand photography, which makes sense because that's what I had done. And my business coach, Jasmine, still, at the time, like for years, was like, you need to create a program that is for brand photographers. And I was like, Jasmine, that's 12 people. I cannot do that. Like, that is way too small of a niche. There's just no way that this is going to work. For somebody who loves niching so much, I have fought every time I niche down in my business, I'm kicking and screaming because it is scary. And I
Yes.
want to like empathize with people who are like, I really do just want to shoot brand photography, but that's terrifying because what if I like lose income? Like, listen, I get it. I've been there. And so Jasmine was like, you really should do this. And I just fought her tooth and nail. And then I ended up hosting an event for my mastermind in person, and I just felt like I fell on my face. It was really
Oh,
difficult for me to um figure out like a curriculum, not a curriculum, but like a what
an
we were going to
itinerary.
cover during this
Yeah.
event. Yeah, an itinerary for
Yeah.
people who like were in totally different industries. And I know people do it, but I really struggled with it. And that was before I really had a curriculum for what I was doing because it all felt so vast. And I just felt like I fell on my face. I'm never uncomfortable speaking in front of a group, and I wanted to die. Like I wanted to crawl in a hole. And that was what it took though. Like I pretty much went home from that retreat and I was like, I can't keep fucking doing this. Like I'm spreading myself way too thin. I'm trying to be everybody's business coach when I am really good at like this kind of niche. And so I shut that down. I took like I think 6-ish months off to kind of rebuild what was going to be Rebrand. And I ran the first round of Rebrand as a 16-week program. And I think I did it live, and have just continued to iterate ever since. And now it's a 12-month program. So that really gives us time to like learn the curriculum, but also really start to put it to use because business is constantly changing. And you can learn something in 16 weeks and then 6 months later need support on that thing. And I want to make sure that I'm there to be able to offer that. And I love the community that I've built. And so having it be a little bit longer is like so lovely and just the best. But it teaches photographers how to attract and book more brand photography clients. So there's a really big marketing focus. That's also a little bit of like a new positioning that's happening. I've always positioned it as like a personal brand program. I have a new business coach now, and she said something a couple months ago. She was like, I don't think your people are walking around thinking I have a problem with personal branding. She's like, I think they're walking around thinking, I don't know what the fuck to post on Instagram. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. Like they've been telling me that, like that was the first workshop I did in 2019. I was just like this moment of like, they have been telling me that since 2019 and I wasn't fucking listening.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I kind of repositioned things, and the program really didn't change. It will continue, it'll continue to evolve, but just kind of changed up some of my positioning and messaging, and just had one of my I think I was like one person shy of my best launch ever with that new messaging. I have over 100 people in the program right now, which is freaking insane.
Wow.
And they're all awesome. That's what's like the craziest part is like every single one of them I would like invite over to my house for a glass of wine. Like they're just the coolest freaking people, and they love each other, and like it's very kumbaya. I know that's cheesy, but I love it.
It's I have witnessed this from my own group coaching programs when I see them like liking each other's things on Instagram and like
I know. I'm
interacting,
like,
and we're
oh,
like,
you're friends.
oh wow, like and it's just like in our photography business is if your marketing is solid, if your messaging is solid, you're going to start attracting a certain type of people that you really vibe with. And
Yeah.
that's what obviously is happening for you in the education sector of your business. So man, how like what so when you pull back and you reflect on that, you must be feeling like a rock star. It's like, look at
It
what you've
feels
done.
really good. I mean, I remember sitting at a retreat with my business coach years ago, and again, just fighting her on this. And like um, she said to me, because I was just like convinced that like this wasn't going to work. Like this is too small of a niche for people to be interested, and for there to be enough people where I can make money. And I don't even know if I would like it. I think I'm going to get bored. I mean, all of the lies that we tell ourselves when like
Sure.
we know
Yeah.
what we should do. And she goes, Maddie, do you want to make a lot of money or do you want to be right? And I was like, I don't even know how to answer that, but it's stuck in my head.
Wow. Love her.
And she,
okay.
I know she's the best. She is the best. But that just like was kind of a moment of like, okay, you know what? Like up until this point, I have hired this business coach. I have paid a lot of money to this business coach, and I have kind of fought this business coach a lot, like the whole time. What happens if I just do what she says? Like, what happens if I just trust that like she might know better than me because I'm paying her for this?
Right.
And I'm so glad that I did. Like, can't believe I didn't do it sooner, but
Amazing, Maddie. Amazing. And now, I mean, here you are, you are continuing to work in the branding side of your business and educating and of course, like pull back, look at the big picture. How many people are trying to pivot into brand photography? So of course there's enough photographers out there for you to reach, just
Totally.
tapping into them and getting that messaging squared away. Before we wrap up, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but can you think back to any genuine, serious fuck ups that also helped you be who you are, and or just not even serious, but just like painful mistakes? You mentioned the conference and the retreat that where you felt, and I'm sure it was on the other side, it was probably not as bad as you felt, but those are always like my best teachers. Those really painful moments and of clarity, where you get clarity. And can you think of any others that have kind of
So many
landed you where you are? Right.
How much time do we have? No,
Right.
The in-person retreat, that was definitely a big one. And you're right. Like everyone who was there has been very generous since then of being like, it wasn't that bad. It was fine. But I felt so terrible. And it was a really pivotal moment. When I think back on any other like big fuck ups in my business that have really changed things, every time that I have like really fucked up, it's been some kind of like a communication error. And my tendency is to want to say, my clients being a bitch. Not most of my clients are great. Okay. If you're my client and you're listening to this, but I've definitely had a few scenarios where I'm just like, do you hate me? And like, do you want me to be miserable? Like, I've just had some people who are kind of unhinged. And that's my tendency to want to be like, you bitch, like you're, whatever. And if I allow myself that space to like really do a bit of a postmortem on
Mhm.
everything
Yeah.
that has
Yeah.
happened, like I'm able to see like, okay, maybe she was being a bit of a bitch and there was like some communication stuff on her end. There was also shit on my end. Like the situation that I'm thinking of was just kind of a misunderstanding with headshots and for a client. And I don't I think the way that the client handled it was really inappropriate. And I think that there were numerous times during the onboarding process that I fucked up and I could have been a better, more communicative photographer. And my process has changed because of that. Like now I get more information up front. So by the time I'm going into a shoot, I have a really clear picture on the goal that I'm shooting for. So like it was a terrible situation.
Yeah.
Absolutely awful.
Those
But I'm
those
so just crazy.
those are always our best teachers and always like the impetus for new policies. So yeah, those are always our best teachers. I have a similar ish thing in my business right now where one of my associates, for the very first time, I got some negative feedback. And when I look on her in a session with her, and when I look back on, the client is definitely not the type to be a bitch or anything like that. She's a longtime client of mine who's always been easy to please and easy to work with. But I'm looking at the choices that I made leading that put everybody kind of in a more, I had her shoot something in the morning after she shot a long wedding for me. And we had to rework a lot. So it was supposed to be in the evening and then we had bad weather. It had to be in the morning. And like, I kind of created this scenario where we were probably going to have somebody that wasn't, but what did I learn from this? A whole lot. And probably new
Yeah,
policies, probably new clauses in my contract, new protocol. And that's how we learn. And it's like, it's a good thing that we're not doing heart surgery because we can learn from
literally.
mistakes and just improve or like reshoot. I reshot the session for her yesterday because I'm like, you're not going to walk away from this situation as my client being anything less than ecstatic. Like you have to be ecstatic.
Yes.
And I will, put my time out there for you to make sure that happens. But it's how we learn. And I guess I wanted to hear from you on any of your own experiences because the people who have the most of those situations are the people who are also the farthest along. So like the delusion, the risk taking, putting yourself out there over and over again to make those mistakes and have the discomfort is really the way forward. I don't know a shortcut. I always like I
Me
need to
neither.
find a better way of articulating this, but like you have to eat shit, and I don't know any other way to say it, but you got
Yeah.
to eat shit.
Yep. You do. I am convinced too. I don't think that there is a shortcut. I am so glad that like I have had the business coaches that I have had to like give me the shortcuts where I can, but at the end of the day, like you still have to do the work, you have to make the mistakes and that is where the growth and the learning comes from.
That's it. Thank you. So we can end right there. But seriously, that's the moral of the story. Lots years and years of hard work investing in solid educators and making mistakes and trying things and trying them again and not giving up. So thank you for all the secrets to your success and sharing them. Tell people about how they can find you, hear more about what you have to say, work with you, look at your work, all of the good stuff.
Yeah. So everything within my brand you can find at maddiepeschong.com or Maddie Peschong on Instagram. I also have, if your people are at all interested in brand photography, what putting a brand session together looks like, I have a shot list at maddiepeschong.com/ shot list that gives you the 11 shots that I get at every single personal brand session. I don't care who you're shooting for, like you will be able to use this shot list. So they can grab that if they want, but otherwise come hang out on Instagram. That's where I spend a lot of my time. I do have a podcast called Take It Personally. Would love to have you subscribe to that as well. That's where you can find me.
Yeah, and Threads. Before we start
And
recording
Threads.
I
Threads
told
is my newest favorite platform for sure. I'm a little unhinged over there. It's really fun.
I think you have to be. I think those are the rules.
You do.
You have to be unhinged. And I'm just secretly like liking all of your posts and sentiments that resonate with me. So
well, thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. Seriously, thank you so much. I can't wait for everybody to hear this episode. You're such an inspiration, and you just put out the roadmap to being super awesome and successful. So thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Yeah, I agree. Have a wonderful day.
So until next time, keep shooting, keep creating, and keep building the business that supports your dreams. Have a fantastic week. And remember, in the business of photography, your creativity is your biggest asset.